News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset. Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Here we are. And I got to tell you, it is amazing to see what has happened over the weekend. First of all, we all saw the horror and the... Well, when you see war, I don't know about you, but when I see war as a man, you get scared a little bit, you get frightened a little bit, you get worried a little bit, you pray a lot, but also you get excited. You get excited about us kicking some butt, and we are Israel, and Israel is us. And I love what my pastor, who's also one of my sponsors from First Baptist Dallas, I love what my pastor, Dr. Robert Jeffress, said over the weekend. It's on my Facebook, on my Twitter feed. You got to follow me on both, at Chris Crock Show. That's at Chris Crock Show, CHRISKROK. An attack against Israel is an attack against God. And I love that. It's powerful. And for us as Americans, this is unequivocal. This is a must to respond and such. We saw Tehran, as you know, unleash over 300 missiles, including ballistic missiles, 120 ballistic missiles, and 30 cruise missiles. Now, and then 170 drones. You're looking at, 320 missiles, drones, and missiles and drones. The ballistic missiles are very hard to shoot down. The cruise missiles are not hard. They're slower, but the ballistic missiles are very hard to shoot down. There was a good chance that something serious could have hit Israel. And Joe Biden is now saying he wants Israel to take the win and move on and have no response. Shocking. Insane. Jaw-dropping. No. Say people like Walter Russell Mead in the Wall Street Journal today, General Jacob Nagel, former National Security Council head. Israel's war cabinet today considers, and I'm going to get into the details of what they said today, but Israel's war cabinet considers today whether to go big against Iran despite World War III fears. Tehran saying, just past hour or so I saw on fake news CNN, Tehran saying, we will respond in seconds if Israel makes another move. We will respond in seconds. Meanwhile, in Israel, the ministers and the war cabinet discussing airstrikes and pressure Netanyahu to launch a crushing attack despite fears of catastrophic escalation. And John Kirby, our National Security Council spokesperson, said today, we're not looking for a wider war with Iran. We are freaking waving the white flag. And Joe Biden released the transcripts today of what he was telling Netanyahu over the weekend in his first call with him since the horrifying and outrageous attack. This is the first ever attack from Iranian soil directly on Jewish soil, on Israeli soil. The only Jewish state in the world. It must be responded to with overwhelming force that hurts Iran so badly that they will never do this again. And to show the world, particularly the Arab world, for its enemies and the terrorists, that if you mess with us, you will be crushed. There is no other option. So my question for you at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227 tonight, do you think Israel should just take the win? As Joe Biden literally said, he released the transcript of his private call with Netanyahu to show, look, I'm telling him not to do anything. Do you think Israel should just take the win, quote unquote, which is literally what Joe Biden said, and not hit Iran back? Or would you like to see them, Israel, go big instead? And what would you like to see Israel do in response to this unprecedented direct attack from Iran on Israel? 800-288-WBAP is our number. That's 800-288-9227. Lines are wide open for you right now. I want to hear from you right now on this. Do you think Israel should just take the win, as Joe Biden wants them to do, take the win and not hit Iran back, which to me is unthinkable? Or would you like to see them go big instead and strike hard? And what would you like to see Israel do in response to this unprecedented direct attack from Iran onto Israeli soil? They've never done this before. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Never been done before. Do you know that? No attack has ever been done from Iranian land onto Israeli land. It's never in the world been done. Until Joe Biden, the most weakest and feckless president in the world, who's now broadcasting. He broadcasts, just so you know, everybody in the world, an attack's going to happen. Everybody, attack's going to happen. And then after they happen, we won. Israel, do nothing. No response. You won. You do a mic drop. Can you imagine the United States of America, you and me, getting attacked by 120 ballistic missiles aimed directly from a country to our country, 30 cruise missiles and 170 drones, and not responding other than defending ourselves? Could you imagine that? Would you ever want us to do that? To show the world and our enemies, you could attack us, we won't strike back. You will pay nothing. You will pay no price if you strike us. Can you imagine ever doing that for us? Could you imagine you ever wanting to do that to others who strike you? To never have a response. Just defend them and have no response. What does this do to the international community and the Arab community? It shows them you are just prime USD grade A sirloin beef to be had. That if you attack them, they'll defend themselves, but they will never strike you. You will pay no price. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. And what's fascinating is to look what a General Jacob Nagel said, a former head of the National Security Council, saying Israel's failure to strike back at Iran could lead to nuclear war. If they fail to strike back, could lead to nuclear war. The 3 targets they must hit right now. The most important one, he says, and you probably know this, and if you don't, it's very simple. Tehran is building about 100 meters below ground, kind of an impenetrable nuclear weapons factory, so they can build nuclear bombs. And it's not finished completely yet, but it's really close to being able to start pumping out nuclear weapons. And the first thing he said, the most important thing Israel must do, and I've been praying for this to happen for years, is please do our job that we can't do. Sometimes it's because of, truthfully, they have to do it for us, and we just cover their backs and pretend like we didn't approve it, while we on the sly did, and we said, go do it. But blow up their nuclear underground facilities. Kill their nuclear scientists. And I want to tell you, if you ever want to watch a show to show you what Israel can do, through not the IDF, but the Shin Bet, and what's the other one? The Israeli Intelligence Service is one other one. I can't remember it now. You'll remember it, but for me, they're in country. They're in Tehran, and they can start killing scientists, blowing up labs, unleashing viruses. But they need to do several things. I'm going to give you the top 3 targets. There's 3 must-do targets that this general says. Yeah, the Mossad. Thank you, Producer Garrett. The Mossad. Watch the show Tehran. It's in Apple TV. I'm telling you, watch it. You're going to be riveted. It's 2 or 3 seasons. It's incredible. Glenn Close is in the last season. That shows you what they do in the country. And they've done it before, and they'll do it again. And this is, as Walter Russell Mead says today in the Wall Street Journal, political suicide it would be for Israel to not strike back and strike back hard. It is what this means is the actual survival of the only Jewish state in the world. Joe Biden is selling our most important ally in the world out for votes in Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin and others. And he is abandoning the world, abandoning the Jews to the world. There's great news, though, I get to share with you coming up next, about the Abraham Accords that Donald J. Trump put together and why that has literally led to unbelievable things that happened over the weekend from the Arab response to this. All that's next, but the lines are wide open for you at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Do you think Israel should just take the win as Joe Biden wants them to after being hit by over 320 missiles and drones and just not hit Iran back, or would you like to see them go big instead and hit them hard? So this never happens again. And what would you like to see Israel do in response to this unprecedented attack, direct attack from Iran to Israel? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. As I said, what does a Saudi official say over the weekend? It's stunning. and other Arab officials, and the 3 major targets they must hit, and they should hit hard. That's next on the Chris Kwok Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227.
I have one word. Don't.
What is your message to Hezbollah and its backer, Iran?
Don't.
What is your message to Iran in this moment?
Don't.
Didn't work. They did, and they did something they've never done before. Joe Biden says don't, and they say, we're going to do what you don't want us to do, but we're going to do it 10 times more than you could think we would be willing to do. And they did. Joe Biden tells you not to do something, you do it 10 times worse than he's asking you not to do at all. It's stunning what he's done to embolden terrorists, the largest sponsor of terrorism in the world. Listen to me. My question for you first real fast is, do you think Israel, after this unprecedented attack of 320 missiles, drones, and everything over the weekend from Iran directly on Israel land for the first time, do you think Israel should just take the win, as Joe Biden's literally asking them to do, and do nothing and not hit back Iran? Or would you like to see them go big? As one general said today, who was in the National Security Council, they've got to go big and strike hard. There's 3 major targets he talks about. I'm going to share those with you next. I say he needs to go big, big, big. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. Should Israel just take the win, or go big and attack? And what would you like to see Israel do in response to this unprecedented direct attack from Iran and Israel? 800-288-WBAP. 800-288-9227. Now, the targets that they should do is, most importantly, this general who was in charge of the National Security Council, previously now retired, Brigadier General. Most important, take out Iran's nuclear weapons program. 100 meters underground, buried under a mountain. We all heard about it. They're gonna do it. It's the only one that can and would. And then the U.S. I wouldn't blame, what's his name, Netanyahu, for not telling Joe he can't. Joe's his enemy now. Second of all, deterrence by punishment. Inflict disproportionate cost, the general says, on your enemies. Focus your response on a few priority targets. They are: destroy the weapons deployed against them, including their unmanned aerial vehicle development and production plants. They can never build another drone again until they rebuild the factory. And production plants, as well as cruise missile and drone storage facilities inside of Iran. Remove all their cruise missiles and drones. Hit, by blowing them up, hit Iranian ports, oil and gas refineries, pipelines, other infrastructure that finances the regime. Because Joe Biden says, hey, make billions by selling oil to Russia, our enemies. But they can't. Gee, we'd love to make Russia more oil and make more billions so we can support more terrorism and kill more Americans. But we can't produce oil anymore because Israel did what Joe Biden should have done a long time ago. You took out their refineries. Ken in Arlington, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP. I should say you're on 820 AM and now 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey, Ken.
Hey, Chris, they need to finish the win, because if they don't, Hamas is going to attack them again.
Absolutely, but it's not Hamas. Remember, it's Iran, directly from their soil. Right. Never before, ever.
Right, and that's what they have to do. They have to finish the win. It's an ugly win, but they have to finish it.
How would you like them to respond? In a big way, and how so? If big way, yeah.
That underground bunker where they're building the nukes, they need to hit that.
I agree.
I think if they hit that, they finish the win.
No. What about destroying the facilities where they make these all the weapons and store them? all?
Yeah. Yes, the clash and all that.
How about also, since Iran did this, how about also destroying their training facilities for their Quds forces, the Revolutionary Guard Corps, because they trained right there to kill all the Jews who were slaughtered and raped and who are still being held hostage, of which Hamas says today, we told you there's only 40 that are left alive. The rest are dead, about 135 of them. Out of only 40 of them are alive, and you're only going to get 20 to withdraw and go out. We're still going to hold 20 of them. I mean, they're winning. And by the way, if you were Hamas, would you do any negotiations now, other than whatever you really want? You're winning,
right? And they have to finish the win, because I mean, what's going to happen if they don't finish the win? The hostages that are there, they're just going to slaughter one by one.
All right, so you want them to hit big, and are you okay with their ports, oil, and gas refineries and pipelines being hit too?
Oh, yeah.
I agree. Lastly, he says take out their leaders.
Oh, yes. You need to do all the above.
Right. I agree. That's the only thing they can do. This is the survival of the Jewish state. This is the survival of the Jewish state. That's all this is. What's unbelievable, and by the way, our number is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Do you think Israel should just take the win and not hit Iran back, as Joe wants them to do, Biden? Or would you like to see them go big instead? And what would you like to see Israel do in response to the unprecedented direct attack from Iran onto Israel? What kind of hits would you like them to do, if any? Trump's Abraham Accords. You know what they've done in this? Joe Biden entered the presidency, as you know, saying that he wants the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS, and Saudi Arabia to become a social pariah. Within a year or so, he started humping MBS's leg, asking for to lower the gas, to pump more oil. And now, MBS, because of Trump's Abraham Accords, he promoted Israeli and Saudi alliance as a cornerstone of the entire Abraham Accords. Because of that, because of Trump and the Abraham Accords, Israeli and Saudi interests are now the cornerstone of the Abraham Accords. Because of that, the Saudi Arabians released a statement today. First of all, they helped defend and take out anything that went over their land, or over their sovereign territory. But they also declared, ready for this? This is going to shock you and stun you. God bless Trump for what he's done. Saudi Arabian officials said Sunday, you ready for this? Iran's behavior is irresponsible. We all know that Iran is a country that sponsors terrorism, and it should have been stopped a long time ago. The Saudi official who spoke on Israeli radio did not deny that Saudi Arabia assisted with intercepting the drones and missiles launched by Iran against Israel. Every suspicious object that enters Saudi airspace is interceptive. It's a sovereign matter. The Wall Street Journal said today more than a half dozen other countries joined the U.S. and Israel to mount a highly effective defense against the Iranian attack. Jordan's cabinet today, Jordan said that forces intercepted several objects entering its airspace, some of the interceptions occurring close to the Iraq-Syrian border. Let's see. Also, the journal said Saudi Arabia and its close ally, the UAE, shared intelligence with the United States and Israel. Can you believe it? Saudi Arabia shared intelligence with Israel. God bless this. This is what Trump did, and this is why we must have him back. God bless Israel, and may the Star of David crush the terrorists in Iran. Okay, coming up next, this is an unbelievable thing I'm witnessing and you're witnessing today. The Trump so-called hush money trial with Stormy Daniels begins today. A must hear. Here's some big ones to think about. Should Donald Trump and his son, should Donald Trump just go to his son's graduation even though he was told today he cannot go by the judge? Should he just blow off the judge, face an arrest, which is what he was warned would happen to him, and just go to his son's graduation? If Trump is convicted, do you think he's if they convict him and put him in jail or try to, do you think he'll have a guaranteed win at the election polls this November? Shocking things to think about, but truthfully, that's what's being debated today, and we should discuss that next. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Just how pathetic and absurd is this case? You'll hear from a top legal expert in the country next.
Everything about this case is, in my view, legally absurd. You know, this case is basically a state misdemeanor that had run out on the statute of limitations. They took a dead misdemeanor and bootstrapped it into effectively trying a federal crime. But the federal crime here under election law was rejected by the Department of Justice. They didn't feel that this should be charged. And it's going to turn on the testimony of people like Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen just recently had a judge call him a serial perjurer.
That's George Washington law professor Jonathan Turley, a Fox News contributor and not a Republican voter at all. He actually thought that George W. Bush had been impeached for the war in Iraq. That's how, non-Republican he is. But he tells the truth. He's one of the traditional Democrat liberals. That is what Democrat liberals used to be, So that's and he's a constitutional scholar, and so he's like, I'm teaching law at one of the best schools in the country. I've been a congressional expert witness on and off for decades. And I tell the truth is what basically what he's saying, and this is a disgrace. But not only that, this case against Donald J. Trump for alleged hush money with porn star Stormy Daniels, but also the same thing was said today of this jurisdiction, which is the Southern District of New York for federal courts, and the former federal prosecutor for the Southern District of New York, who actually prosecuted terrorists in the first attempt to blow up the Twin Towers in the basement there, I think it was, with Bill Clinton when he was there. And he prosecuted that case. And what he said was shocking today about Trump stuff, but also the terrorism stuff. We'll share that later. But on the Trump stuff, there's no case. There is no case. You need to understand about this case a couple things. You probably have heard it by now, but, and there's some stunning things we hear today about Trump being told he can't go to his son's graduation. He's got two other sons, but still, his only son who's, still a youngin'. And would you, the other thing that we're talking about is if he's convicted, is it possible he will really win the election? Because this case is so bogus. We're going to ask you that in a minute. But our number, by the way, is 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. But this is a case that was considered by the federal government, the DOJ, and they passed on it. They said there's no case here. This was a case that was reviewed by the Federal Elections Commission, which regulates elections, to see if this was an illegal contribution to pay her to be quiet for the campaign, and they passed on any charges. They didn't find any charges, anything worthy of anything being prosecuted, or being fined civilly or anything. Nothing. Second of all, Cy Vance, the former district attorney for Manhattan, looked at this, and as a liberal Democrat, wanted to obviously throw the book of Trump, but he saw no case in it, so he passed on it. So that's what you have to understand. And lastly, this is a misdemeanor, and the statute of limitations has already passed by 5 years. It's over. It's that old. So Alvin Bragg, the DA, by the way, also refused to prosecute this at first. But then he was attacked by a Biden-Obama acolyte who worked in his office. He wrote a tell-all book to attack Alvin Bragg in the liberal leftist community, nationally, locally, and globally, for not prosecuting this case and why he wrote it. And then shortly thereafter, Bragg decided, oh, crap, I'm looking bad here. And the Democrat White House, Joe Biden, and the Democrats want me to prosecute for this. So he took the past the statute of limitations crime for a misdemeanor. That was not even a good case, as we talked about a second ago. And then he bootstrapped it to a felony, like a federal crime of some sort. And so he's prosecuting something that's already past the statute of limitations that, as I mentioned, two federal folks passed on, and a former local DA, and even the current DA passed on. So this is all to put Orange Man in jail. You have the most likely populous New York City, deep blue, to convict for almost anything. You have a very good possibility that Donald Trump will be arrested. The judge Juan Marchand, is a complete leftist. When he campaigned to run for this position as a judge in New York City, he campaigned on hating Trump and getting Trump, just like others have done. So here we are, and he's now saying, no, Trump, if you don't show up for court every day, even though you're running for president, every day for a month roughly, you are going to go to jail. Including you cannot go for your son's graduation, Barron. So here's my questions for you, because I'm hearing people talk about this, and this is really searing to me about what a great thing we should be discussing. Do you feel, first of all, do you think that Trump should go to his son's graduation? Folks saying today, including Hugh Hewitt of all people, the kind of lightly leaning right guy, said today on Fox News, go in there, I think it was him, go in there, go to your son's graduation and let him arrest you. He'll get elected in a landslide because the American people will see that and go, you stole his son's graduation from him. You couldn't give him 1 day off in the 1 month trial and then just take an extra day on the trial. Second of all, if Trump's convicted, do you think, as some have said today, it's a guaranteed election win for Trump? Because the Americans will see how pathetic this is. Or here's the other thing they've said. The pollings have supposedly said, hey, if he is convicted, we're not going to vote for him. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 4 lines open, 800-288-9227. Jeff in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, how are you?
Good, sir.
So I have a question. So let's say hypothetically Trump is convicted and sentenced, and the judge orders somebody to take him into custody. How is the Secret Service going to allow that, or how would that even play out?
Let me tell you what I know about that. Number one, he does not lose Secret Service protection if he's convicted of a crime. I mean, there's no former president that's ever been put on trial, let alone convicted of a crime.
Right.
And when you look at how there's no case, and this is actually happening, is unbelievable. And this case could possibly send him. I mean, here's what you have to realize: every member of that jury, they're doing the jury right now, looking at it, Void Dwyer, I think it's called, and they're finding out who should be the jurors, who should not. They dismissed 50 of 96 today. They need 12 jurors and 6 alternates for a total of 18. And now in Deep Blue Manhattan, you know that you could be the person who overlooks there's no case and just puts him in jail so that you can finally be the one who put Trump in jail. Right. I think you're going to see people do that, and I think that what little I know, I don't know the answer to your question, but I will tell you this: the Secret Service doesn't stop protecting him. They're going to have to clear out literally an entire wing of a jail, and then they will have God knows what 50, 100, 200 prisoners at least that will have nowhere to stay in that wing, and he'll have to be there by himself with the Secret Service, is my understanding. I don't know if I'm right, but that's my understanding of how it might go down.
You would think that's how it's going to go down, but if the Secret Service just says flat out no, then he just would walk out with the Secret Service, and that might be the end.
Because
of it.
they cannot leave him. They can't leave him. They will. Yeah, the Secret Service will never leave him alone.
Right.
So go ahead. What are they going to do at that point? You said arrest him and have the Secret Service fight him and battle them. Yeah.
Right. How's that going to go down?
It's the same. It's under the Department of Justice, and the Democrats control that state. The Democrats control our federal government. So in this case, here's a pure guess of mine. I think they'd like to have a mugshot, have him arrested like they did in Georgia, have him arrested, have him in cuffs, do a frog march, have that video to play to show how much of a criminal he is, quote unquote, in their opinion. And then I think they would probably give him they'd have to give him home confinement. I don't see what else they'd do with an ankle monitor or something pathetic and stupid. I don't know.
Nobody has the right to interfere with the Secret Service and the president. They just don't have that right to do that. So up until the use of deadly force. So who's gonna try to take President Trump into custody should he be convicted? I don't see that happening.
Let me ask you this: do you think Trump should blow off the judge saying, Juan Merchan, the New York judge of this case, saying, "I'm going to arrest you if you go to your son's graduation"? Do you think he really should just go?
Yeah, I mean, I think he should. I mean, what are they going to do? Really,
they're going to arrest him
to protect him. But how? How would you physically?
They'll coordinate it. Well, how did they book him in this case in New York? How did they book him in the case in Georgia?
That was all arranged, right?
That's what I'm saying. They'll arrange it. They're not going to just show up at his house and kick his door down without getting shot by the Secret Service. They're going to arrange it. He's going to walk in and peacefully come in, arrest you, and he'll smile again for his second mugshot photo to put on our coffee mugs that we buy. And but they're not going to put him in jail. They can't. I think they're going to put him in home confinement, or they're going to make up a situation but they're going to make him look bad. So, Jeff, do you think if he gets
an ankle monitor on him and he can use that in his political game?
Yes, absolutely. Have a picture with it and say, "Look what this is going to be. You look what they're doing for me." Do you think he'll be elected in a landslide if he's convicted and put in jail for this?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you think because you think Americans like you and I who have kids? I'm sure you have kids.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you had your high school graduation or college graduation yet with them?
Oh yes, most of them.
Yeah, so you would not be missing it if you were him either, would you?
I wouldn't. What are they going to do, Trump?
Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate your call from Fort Worth. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Coming up next, you're going to hear more from legal scholar Jonathan Turley on this specific case. And also, this is a big one. What happens if Trump is convicted? Can he run for president if he's convicted in this New York City case, which very likely could happen? Imagine being the liberal jury and saying, who cares what the law is? We had a chance to put him behind bars. We could be like rich and famous and write books and write a movie script and make all the money. 800-288-WBAP is our number. 800-288-9227. All that next to the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Well, the more cases against Trump, the less justice we receive as a people. You know, the opponents of Trump would have been far better off with just one case, the Mar-a-Lago case. That's based on real law, real precedent. One can disagree with the interpretations, but it's not a reach in the sense of this case. This case is creating something. He's effectively arguing that Trump was filing false business records through his counsel to hide a federal crime. But it isn't a federal crime. This wasn't a campaign contribution. None of that appears to matter. And that's why a lot of us are looking at this and recoiling. This is not how the law is supposed to be.
Let me finish that first part at the end because I cut off Jonathan Turley by accident. I was so anxious to make sure I get this back to back. Here we go.
Creating something. It's creating a criminal code just for Trump.
Okay, there you go. Basically, using your own finances, your personal finances, to pay a woman in your personal life that you may or may not have had relations with to shut up in a legal way is not a political contribution, because people do that without politics. It wasn't for politics. Maybe it was. Maybe it was for his wife. So there's nothing here that's regarding his political campaign. He paid it from his own pocket. Now, what happens if Trump is convicted and he can run for president? Can he run for president? This is what the Daily Mail said today. That yes, he can run for president. I'll get into more details on that in a second, but yes, he can. Stephen Irving, you're on News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Hello, Steve.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Yeah, I got two quick points I want to make real quick. The first one about the graduation, and the second one as if they do convict him. So Trump doesn't need to, unfortunately, go to his son's graduation. And he will not, because he's smarter than that, because that's exactly what they want him to do. They want to get that picture, that ideal out to America, the mainstream media does, that, look, Trump thinks he's above the law. He could thumb his nose at the judge and the system and all this stuff. And, you know, they'll take advantage of that, and Trump knows that. He's not stupid. And the second point I want to make about him being convicted, if they do convict him, which I think there's a good chance that they will, not that I agree with the conviction, but I think that they will, that is to keep him on house arrest so he cannot go out and campaign, and to hold him at Mar-a-Lago or whatever, and, put an ankle monitor on him and try to embarrass him even more than what they've done. I think that's their goal, so they got him hemmed up in that.
You know what? If you and I, Steve, take a step back, and we look at this from regardless of the law, regardless of what Trump does or doesn't do, and you instead look at it from simply what will help me get elected. What will help me more to get elected? Is it to not blow this off and to go to Barron's graduation? I'm sorry, is it to blow up the trial and go to my son's graduation and face the consequences with honor? Or is it to not buck back? From a perspective of how do I get reelected? What's the answer to that question?
I've got an answer for it.
Before you do, remember, if American people, regardless of whether they like Trump or hate him, see a man thrown in jail for seeing his son's graduation when he tried, maybe that gets him elected more. Go ahead.
Okay, here's what I see. Like I said, Trump is way smarter than that, because they'll spin it on him about the graduation. And if he doesn't go, then that plays more into his favor, because then it's like, look what the system's doing to this caring father, will not let him go.
Do you agree?
I'm going to take that and tear him up with it.
Do you agree that it doesn't matter whether he does it or doesn't do it, that he's going to, as you say, smart, he's going to do what is smarter, the smart thing to do? Actually, let me rephrase this. Do you agree that Trump always takes stuff that they do to hurt him and uses it to his advantage?
Yes.
He's a master at, right? He's a master at that, right?
Yeah, yes.
What would a master do?
What
would a master do in this situation is the question.
If I had that kind of stage, that's exactly what I would do, because I could see Trump doing that. Honestly, play the victim. Let them go ahead and deny your son's graduation, and he will play the victim, and he will be a victim.
Steve, do you think he'll end up going to jail? Do you think he'll end up being convicted and go to jail in this just because?
I believe that there's a high probability that they will arrest him on a house arrest during the campaign, so he cannot leave.
So you think they're going to convict him and house arrest him?
I believe there's a high probability of that, yes.
Steve, I appreciate your call. And we know the Secret Service has already approved Mar-a-Lago because that's where he lives. So, that's fascinating. Okay, coming up next, today is tax day. I'm sure you know, but maybe you didn't. I was actually talking to one of my very good friends yesterday at church, and he's a business owner, and he had taxes. He's like, I was up all night. I was working all weekend. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right. He says it's the 15th because last year it was May 15th. They extended it by a month. Anyway, because it's tax day and because there are so many amazing things to talk about tonight before everything's over and strategies and other things you can do to protect yourself, or if you are worried about the IRS coming after you, my friend Randy Martin, he's also a sponsor from IRSprob.com, coming up next on tax day. There's so many good things I have ready for him. You do not want to miss this. Next on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.